Hello everyone, Methodist Dave here. I'm on the inside of the Batsto Pleasant Mills Meeting House. We showed you the outside in the story, Be Careful What You Wish For, about a young man who fell from the roof and died, and the young lady who pined after him and died herself. This sanctuary was built in 1808, and it sits upon the foundation of the log cabin of Elijah Clark's meeting house, which was a second church on this site, which was a smaller log cabin, was here, built in the 1750s. This has been a Scotch Presbyterian community, but around the turn of the century, around 1800, Methodists came in, and Francis Asbury preached here twice. He preached here in 1807 and says, "Your church is no good, you need a new church." They built the new church here, this structure, in 1808, and Asbury came back again and consecrated this in 1809. So this sanctuary here was consecrated by Bishop Francis Asbury himself in 1809. This is the oldest continuously used Methodist church in South Jersey. It opened its doors in 1808 and has been used ever since. You notice that there are two doors in the back, and you notice that the central pews here are divided. Once upon a time, the congregation was segregated between men and women. Men on one side, women on the other, and families would split the middle. Now, in the front of the church here is our flying pulpit. Up here, and if we look up, there's the soundboard that would help to bounce the sound out to the congregation. And there is a cast iron support bar holding it up that was forged at the foundry over at Batsto. This is not the original pulpit. That was removed around 1900, and this pulpit here was replaced in 1950s when the building was refurbished. The hall in the back and two bathrooms were added. The window was cut out here and a door was placed. So this is how you access the back wall. We have here on loan a pipe organ made by Daniel Ticini from Rome, Italy. He made this in 2014 and he loaned this to the church. Hasn't been back for it yet, but it's a beautiful pipe organ. And this is of an Italian style. Organs like this would have been heard and played by Michelangelo. He would be familiar with that. As I said, this church, underneath it was the old Elijah Clark meeting house. It was a log cabin. Up in the ceiling there used to be a beehive. And that was such a large beehive that it actually leaked through the ceiling. And they would raise money for the church by drilling holes into the ceiling and draining the honey and jarring it and selling that. So this is our sanctuary on the inside. These are not the original pews. They were replaced in the 1800s. But I'll tell you a story about one of the preachers here, Simon Lucas, a very stern and authoritarianism. He liked to keep this congregation on the straight and narrow. And one day they were gathering to preach, and a young lady who'd never been here before came and sat down right here in the front pew. Now, she had on her a large silver brooch, and it caught the glare from the sun shining in the window. And as Lucas was preaching, that little flash of sunlight distracted him. Well, he laid into this young lady, condemning her about her frivolity, coming to church wearing gaudy, outlandish jewelry, distracting the pastor as he's preaching. And he humiliated her so much that she bolted out the door and never came back again. Well, a few weeks later, the congregation was here worshiping, and Lucas was not here at the time. Someone else was preaching. But a man came through that back door there and said, "The herring are up." Well, all the men in the congregation filed out because the herring came up the river here. Seafood was a very big part of their economy here. So all the men went out to go get the herring. Well, Jesse Richards' daughter was here and observed the whole thing, and she was furious about the hypocrisy where this young lady could be sitting here just wearing a silver brooch, and it disturbed the pastor a little bit, and that was unacceptable. But the man comes in and says, "The herring are up," and all the men run out the door, and that's completely acceptable. So she asked Simon Lucas, when he came to their mansion over at Batsto for tea one afternoon, and asked him why it was perfectly acceptable to interrupt the church service to go fishing for herring when a woman just sitting here minding her own business with a piece of jewelry was unacceptable. Well, Lucas said, "The time to catch herring is when the herring are here." I don't think that made much sense to her. I think she saw the hypocrisy in it. But, it's a man's world at the time. Our potbelly stoves here, they used to gather around them in the wintertime when it was cold. And they would preach around the potbelly stoves to keep warm. Reverend Pittman once preached here. 300 people filled this sanctuary and sat outside the windows, listening to what was going on inside. There was a pastor who came in here, what's his name here? Let me check. Finney Mahan. Finney Mahan had been a jockey in a previous life, and he used to come and he would straddle the altar rail here and ride it like a horse to illustrate his sermons. My goodness, this sanctuary has seen quite a bit. And I imagine it'll see quite a bit more. But that's this week's story from Methodist Dave. The sanctuary at Batsto Pleasant Mills. The oldest continuously used Methodist church in South Jersey. We have a couple older ones, but they're not used on a regular basis anymore. And this one is. I wish you a good day. Please remember to like and subscribe and share this video with your friends. Bye-bye.